I'm bringing you 10 names that you should look at grabbing off the waiver wire as we head into week 14. At the time of recording, it's right before the Sunday Night Football game, so if something changes and my order might change, I'll leave it in the pinned comment. But I'm talking about quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. I'm going to give you streaming options for defense, for quarterback as we head into week 14. I'm going to cover all the bases for you, and I'm going to try and do it in under 10 minutes because I know your time is valuable. Do me a favor, hit that like button. My number one pickup for today, are you needing a running back start this week? Well, let's look at Ezekiel Elliott. Ramondre Stevenson went down with an injury versus the Chargers in that 6-0 loss. The good news for Zeke is that he was absolutely dominating opportunities. He actually ended the game with 22 total opportunities, including 5 targets. And now he gets to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just allowed James Conner to score 2 touchdowns and over 22 fantasy points. Zeke is a great spot start in a good matchup if you're trying to make the playoffs. All right, my number 2 pickup, if you can't get a hold of Zeke, how about Taj Spears, currently available in 32% of ESPN leagues and over 50% of sleeper formats. Taj, look, same thing with Zeke, except Derrick Henry's injury doesn't look as serious. At the time of recording, it looks like potentially a concussion. If it is a concussion, I would expect Derrick Henry to likely miss the following week, especially being a running back with the type of beating they take on a week-to-week basis. So Taj would be an incredible start. He had 22 opportunities in this game where Derrick Henry went down versus the Colts, including 6 targets. They play the Miami Dolphins next week. I could see Taj Spears leading all running backs in targets, considering the scorer line of the Dolphins game next week. So Taj is a great pickup if Derrick Henry is indeed going to miss time next week. All right, at number 3, if you are solid at the running back spot and you're looking to stash a potentially very valuable wide receiver instead, let's go ahead and pick up the likes of Noah Brown. Now, Tank Dell left last week's game with an injury, or this week's game with an injury. He broke his fibula from what it looks like the reports are saying. Now, can I ask the Texans coaching staff, what are you doing putting your 165-pound wide receiver at the line of scrimmage to block? What was the plan there? Regardless, Tank Dell is going to miss the rest of the fantasy season at minimum. Noah Brown is going to step into a bigger role. Yes, he only had 2 targets in this game, but now they're going to have to game plan around not having Tank Dell. And we have seen Noah Brown be a huge part of this offense when he has been healthy. Don't forget, in weeks 9 and in weeks 10, he had over 150 receiving yards in both of those games and over 24 PPR points in both of those games. And one of the league's highest volume passing offenses, Noah Brown should not be looked at and just laughed at because of the 2 targets this week. He could be a flex option for people weekly. All right, my 4th pickup is Antonio Gibson. Now, the issue with Antonio Gibson is that they're on a bye this week. So this is a player that you're probably not going to have a ton of confidence heading into the playoffs with. However, if Brian Robinson, his hamstring forces him to miss an extended period of time, and let's say you lost a running back this week, you could go ahead and stash him as a break glass scenario as you head into the playoffs. Because what we do know is if Brian Robinson isn't there, Antonio Gibson's going to get a ton of volume. He had 15 total touches versus the Dolphins in week 13. All right, where are my super flex people at? This is specifically for you. Jamus Winston, rostered in less than 2% of formats everywhere. Now, if you're in a 1 quarterback format, you do not pick up Jamus. But of course, super flex leagues, it's hard to find a good starting quarterback. And we know Jamus can kind of fling the ball all around the field. So a guy who plays the Panthers next week, the Giants in week 15, if Derek Carr misses an extended amount of time, Jamus can be a fine super flex play. All right, at number 6, this is more of a sneaky ad. I full-heartedly believe that when this player is healthy, you can put him in your flex spot. That is Joshua Palmer, Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver. Now, he will have been on the IR for 5 weeks now, but if he's activated this week or the week after, I would feel so much confidence putting him into my lineup. It is so obvious that they are missing a deep ball threat like Joshua Palmer in this Chargers offense. Now, Elijah Moore, we're going to talk about next at number 7. I think you could actually put Elijah Moore higher on this list. In fact, if I knew Amari Cooper was going to miss multiple weeks, he would probably be ahead of Noah Brown. So keep that context in mind. At this moment, I don't anticipate Amari Cooper missing any time. And if Amari Cooper plays next week, he will be the highest targeted wide receiver on this team. He is the alpha on this team. But again, if Amari Cooper misses multiple games, I'll put Elijah Moore all the way ahead of Noah Brown. He is rostered in 34% of ESPN leagues and 47% of sleeper leagues, but he's coming off a 12-target game. With Joe Flacco under center, it's kind of unlocking his fantasy upside. All right, at number 8, do you need a tight end? How about Brean Jordan? He's not rostered, in most formats. He's probably going to be available in your leagues. And Dalton Schultz is missing multiple games with his injury. Meanwhile, Brean Jordan, 4 targets last week, 64 receiving yards. And earlier we talked about Tank Dell going down. Well, certain weapons are going to have to step up. And if Dalton Schultz and Tank Dell are out, Brean Jordan becomes a fine play depending on how desperate you are. But let's go ahead and finish the video with some streaming options. If you're streaming the quarterback position, let's look at a couple names here. Baker Mayfield at the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons give up the 4th most points to fantasy quarterbacks at the time of recording this. Gardner Minshew at the Bengals. The Bengals are technically not a good matchup, but I think that has more to do with what their team looked like pre-Joe Burrow's injury. Jordan Love at the Giants is a fantastic option, assuming he doesn't get injured in this game tonight. But, he's always good for 2 to 3 touchdowns a game. And if we're looking at streaming the defensive position, the Packers are a great option. They go to New York to face the Giants. No one gives up more points to defensive fantasy position than the New York Giants. You got the Texans at the Jets. The Jets give up the 2nd most points to fantasy defenses. The Saints at the Panthers. The Bucks at the Falcons. Those are all fantastic options in order of my preference. So, how did I do? We talked about at least 10 names when you look at streaming options and waiver wire pickups. Why don't you go ahead and comment a name that you are picking up this week? Help the community out if there's one that I might have missed. Do me a favor, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next video. All up. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.